I mean, usually when we talk about first contact with something from another world, there is this deeply ingrained expectation of a grand, chaotic arrival.
Oh, absolutely. The cultural assumption is that a paradigm shift of that magnitude has to be, completely deafening.
Right. You imagine this massive blockbuster movie scenario, like a massive explosion lighting up the horizon, sirens instantly blaring everywhere, global military networks mobilizing.
Yeah, the whole world just glued to their screens as the sky simply tears open. Society kind of expects a collective, undeniable shock to the system the very second we find out we aren't alone.
Exactly. But then you step into the atmosphere of the materials we are exploring today, and that cinematic explosion is entirely absent.
It's nowhere to be found.
Right. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a really fascinating stack of sources today. We've got text excerpts from a classic, incredibly atmospheric piece of speculative fiction, alongside some literary analyses and psychological notes on the whole concept of first contact.
And our mission today is really to explore the anatomy of a world-altering event, specifically looking at how a planetary invasion can begin not with a bang, but with this absolute unsettling normalcy.
Yeah, and the source text really operates like a masterful, slow-burn thriller. I mean,
Hmm.
from the opening lines, there's this deliberate, subtle mystery being constructed.
Oh, the setting is so aggressively domestic and ordinary. The arrival of something extraterrestrial is almost treated as like background noise by the people actually living through it.
Okay, let's unpack this,
Hmm.
because the opening scene is just dripping with this dark, dramatic irony.
Oh, it really is.
We have our narrator sitting comfortably at home
Yeah.
late at night. The mood is incredibly quiet. His French windows are wide open, facing towards Ottershaw, and the blind is drawn up specifically because he enjoys looking at the night sky.
Just a perfectly normal, quiet evening.
Right. He is just sitting there alone in the quiet of his study, writing. And meanwhile, the most profound anomaly to ever enter our atmosphere is streaking across the sky, completely visible through that exact open window.
It's right there.
Yes. Had he just tilted his head a fraction of an inch, he would have witnessed history. But instead, he totally misses it.
And, that missed glance establishes the entire psychological foundation for everything we are going to analyze today.
It sets the tone perfectly.
It does. Why does the narrator miss it? But more importantly, why do the hundreds of people who actually saw it burning in the upper atmosphere completely dismiss it?
Yeah, that's the real question.
It all comes down to normalcy bias. Human neurology is fundamentally wired to force new anomalous information into safe, pre-existing cognitive boxes.
I want to pull the listener into this mindset for a second. Imagine you are outside late at night and you see this blazing greenish streak in the sky. Your brain doesn't instantly jump to, well, we are being invaded.
No, of course not.
It jumps to the safest available explanation. You just think, oh, just another shooting star.
Exactly, but someone eventually has to look closer.
Right, so let's get into the geometry of this actual discovery.
So the initial sighting happens early in the morning, rushing eastward over Winchester. It is described as a line of flame incredibly high up.
And observers note this eerie greenish luminosity that glows for several seconds, right?
Yeah. The text even introduces a figure named Denning, who is an authority on meteorites, and he estimates the object first appeared 90 to 100 miles high in the atmosphere before falling about 100 miles east of his position.
And there is an immense physical presence to this thing, too. I mean, people across Berkshire, Surrey, and Middlesex hear a distinct hissing sound rushing above them.
A literal flaming object hissing over their roofs.
Yes, yet the collective assumption remains completely unwavering. Everyone just thinks, oh, it's a meteorite. They shrug it off, and they literally just go back to sleep.
The sheer inertia of daily routine is incredibly powerful. But, the tone shifts radically at dawn. We meet Ogilvy.
The man of science.
Right. Ogilvy saw the streak and is absolutely convinced this space rock has landed on the common between Horsell, Ottershaw, and Woking. So he heads out into the early morning mist to find it.
And the impact scene he discovers is just staggering. I mean, he finds this enormous hole near the sandpits.
The kinetic energy alone is massive.
Huge. The landing has violently flung sand and gravel in every direction, forming these massive heaps that are visible a mile and a half away.
Yeah, the heather is actively on fire, sending this thin blue smoke rising into the dawnlight.
And a nearby fir tree has been completely shattered into scattered splinters.
It is a pocket of utter devastation, yet it remains highly localized, which is so eerie. The morning itself is otherwise totally calm.
Right, just a quiet dawn.
And nestled right in the center of this smoldering crater is the object, mostly buried in the scorched earth.
See, I am genuinely confused by Ogilvy's reaction here, and I really have to push back on the premise that a man of science would just accept this.
Oh, it's definitely a stretch.
Because the text explicitly describes the uncovered portion of this object as a massive cylinder. We're talking 30 yards in diameter. 30
It's
yards.
the size of a building.
Right. And it is covered in a thick, scaly, dun-colored crust. I mean, meteorites do not look like giant industrial pipes. If I find a perfectly square egg in a chicken coop, I don't just assume it's a weirdly shaped rock, you know?
No, you panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How does a trained observer look at a 30-yard metal cylinder and not instantly sound the alarm?
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer power of cognitive dissonance. You are totally right to point out how illogical it is, but that is exactly how the human brain handles system-breaking trauma.
It just refuses to process it.
Pretty much. Ogilvy walked out onto that heath looking for a meteorite. His reality is completely anchored to that expectation. So when he is confronted with a giant scaly cylinder, he doesn't revise his reality to say, alien spacecraft.
He just forces it to be a meteorite.
Yes, he violently stretches the definition of a meteorite to accommodate the anomaly. He notes the unusual shape, he is momentarily surprised, and he even dimly perceives what the text calls evidence of design.
But he doesn't take the final step.
No. The leap to extraterrestrial life is simply too vast for his brain to process in that lonely crater.
And he even tries to rationalize the sounds it makes. I mean, he is standing on the edge of the pit, unable to get closer because the ambient air is literally baking hot from the object's atmospheric friction.
Right, it's scorching.
And suddenly, he hears a distinct, muffled, stirring noise coming from inside the cylinder.
And his scientific background actually betrays him here. He attributes that stirring sound to the unequal cooling of the surface.
Oh, of course. Thermal contraction.
Exactly. He tells himself the intense heat is causing thermal contraction, which accounts for the noise. The idea that this massive object might be hollow simply hasn't penetrated his defenses yet.
It's so deeply in denial.
And we really have to appreciate the cinematic tension of this moment. The sun is just clearing the Weybridge pine trees. The air is perfectly still. He is entirely alone on this massive heath.
And the text notes a terrifying absence of birdsong, right?
Yes. Complete silence.
I mean, put yourself in Ogilvy's shoes right now. There is no breeze, no wildlife, just absolute suffocating silence, broken only by faint, muffled movements echoing from inside a scorching 30-yard metal cylinder.
It's chilling.
The environment is acutely aware of the danger, even if Ogilvy's conscious mind is refusing to accept it.
The natural world recognizes the profound wrongness of the object. The birds have fled. The silence is heavy, almost predatory.
But that fragile, that thermal cooling theory completely falls apart the moment the object starts physically responding.
It shatters entirely.
The narrative shifts so abruptly from a man observing a dead chunk of space debris to a man realizing the object is a machine.
The physical clues begin to compound, basically breaking down Ogilvy's rationalizations. He notices the gray clinker, that ashy, scaly crust baked onto the cylinder during its descent, is starting to fall off.
Right. But pay attention to the mechanics of this, because it isn't flaking off randomly.
No, it is dropping exclusively from the circular edge at the end of the cylinder, just showering down into the sand.
And then a massive piece suddenly snaps off with a sharp noise. The text makes it clear his heart basically jumps into his mouth.
He is terrified.
He is startled, but incredibly, he still tries to force it into his meteorite box. He actually climbs down into the suffocating heat of the pit to get a closer look, telling himself the body is just cooling down.
But the physics of that excuse simply don't hold up, and Ogilvy soon realizes it. If a solid object is cooling, the thermal contraction would cause the crust to flake off uniformly across the entire surface.
Right, not just in one specific spot.
Exactly. The localized flaking along a single circular seam indicates concentrated mechanical friction, not an ambient drop in temperature.
And then, very slowly, the terrifying truth reveals itself. The circular top of the cylinder is actively rotating.
It's turning.
But it is moving at such a glacial pace that he only registers the movement because a distinct black mark on the surface has shifted across the circumference over the course of 5 minutes.
And this is where the slow burn horror really peaks. There is no sudden explosion of doors opening. It is a methodical, relentless mechanical rotation.
Just a slow grind.
A muffled grating sound echoes from the metal, and that black mark jerks forward another inch.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the visceral horror of this specific realization is unparalleled.
It really is.
Imagine staring at what you thought was a giant rock, sweating in the residual heat of a crater, when the horrifying geometry suddenly clicks in your mind.
The paradigm shift.
Yes, you are not looking at a rock, you are looking at the lid of a cosmic jar, and something is unscrewing it from the inside out.
That paradigm-shattering leap finally happens for Ogilvy right there. The illusion of the meteorite shatters completely. The object is artificial, it is hollow, and an intelligence is actively unscrewing the top.
And his mind just scrambles for context.
Yeah, he instantly links this object to the recent flash upon Mars that had been observed by astronomers.
The psychological weight of that realization must be crushing.
Yeah.
But his immediate reaction isn't a sense of awe or, scientific wonder. It is pure empathetic dread.
Which is so human.
Exactly. He literally speaks out loud to the empty crater. He says, there's a man in it, men in it, half roasted to death, trying to escape.
He projects human vulnerability onto the aliens.
He does. He pictures beings trapped inside a blazing hot metal oven, suffocating, desperately twisting the lid to survive the heat.
It is a deeply tragic and profoundly human assumption. Faced with an incomprehensible alien intelligence, Ogilvy's first instinct is compassion.
Which is almost heartbreaking, really.
It is. He actually steps forward, fully intending to grab the spinning lid and help them turn it.
Wow.
But the dull, radiating heat of the metal is so punishingly intense that it physically forces him backward. He is literally repelled by the hostile nature of this alien environment.
So he's left standing there, entirely paralyzed for a moment. He is the sole possessor of the most terrifying, monumental truth in human history.
And he's all alone.
So what do you do when you are standing alone in a pit with an opening alien spacecraft? You run for your life to get help.
Which introduces a whole new layer of psychological tension. The immense disconnect between experiencing a paradigm shift and trying to communicate it to an unprepared world.
Right, because nobody is ready for this.
Ogilvy scrambles out of the crater and sprints wildly toward Woking. It is roughly 6 o'clock in the morning, and the world is just quietly waking up to its normal routines.
I find his reception in town darkly hilarious, yet terrifying at the same time. Ogilvy is the literal messenger of first contact, and society treats him like an absolute nuisance.
They want nothing to do with him.
He runs up to a wagoner on the road and frantically tries to explain the cylinder. But, picture Ogilvy in this moment. He is coated in ash and sand. He is dripping with sweat.
He looks like a maniac.
He lost his hat in the crater, and his eyes are completely wild with panic. The wagoner takes one look at him, ignores his rambling entirely, and just drives his cart away.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the wagoner isn't just ignoring a crazy person, he is instinctively protecting his reality.
That makes a lot of sense.
Society acts as an immune system against disruptive information. The wagoner has a route to run, goods to deliver, a life that makes sense. A frantic man yelling about men from Mars threatens that stability, so the mind simply rejects the messenger to protect the routine.
And it gets even worse with the next person he meets. Ogilvy finds a potman, a guy unlocking the doors of a local pub near Horsell Bridge.
Right.
The potman doesn't just ignore Ogilvy, he views this frantic, babbling scientist as a physical threat. The pub worker actually tries to grab Ogilvy and lock him inside the taproom.
It perfectly illustrates how an unprepared public handles radical truth. If a message shatters our daily routine and the messenger doesn't carry conventional authority, we neutralize them.
We just lock him away.
Exactly. The potman needs to open his pub. A raving man covered in sand is an obstacle to that goal, so the solution is to lock the obstacle away.
But that near miss with the pub taproom kind of sobers Ogilvy up. He realizes he cannot just scream the truth at working-class people who are focused on their morning chores.
He needs a different strategy.
Right. He needs someone whose entire profession is built on processing the extraordinary. And that is when he spots Henderson.
Yes. Henderson is a London journalist, currently just standing in his garden with a spade. Ogilvy changes his tactic entirely. He leans over the fence and starts by establishing a shared, non-threatening reality.
He anchors the conversation.
He asks, "You saw that shooting star last night?" Henderson nods. "Fallen meteorite. That's good."
And Henderson clearly thinks he just landed a quaint little local interest story for the morning edition.
A fun little piece for the paper.
But then Ogilvy drops the actual payload. He says it's something more than a meteorite. It's a cylinder, an artificial cylinder, man, and there's something inside.
And Henderson is deaf in one ear, which adds this incredibly grounded, almost mundane layer to the communication of such cosmic news.
He has to make Ogilvy repeat himself.
Right. But once the concept lands, Henderson processes it rapidly. Those specific words, artificial cylinder, bypass the normalcy bias because they trigger his journalistic framework.
Because a meteorite is local news, but an artificial cylinder.
Is the story of the century? He drops his spade, grabs his coat, and the two of them hurry back to the common.
And the moment a journalist gets involved, the entire atmospheric nature of the event changes. It shifts from a solitary, terrifying discovery in a silent sandpit into the early stages of a sensationalized media event.
The environment at the crater has shifted by the time they get back to. When they arrive, the cylinder is completely still. The mechanical turning has ceased.
But a thin circle of bright metal is now clearly visible between the top lid and the main body of the cylinder.
And the acoustic environment has changed as well. That muffled grating is gone, replaced by a thin, continuous sizzling sound.
The air pressure.
Exactly. Air is actively moving in or out of the crack. The seal has officially been broken, and the pressure of two entirely different worlds is equalizing.
Look at the human reaction to this monumental moment, though. Henderson and Ogilvy don't retreat. They pick up a stick and literally start rapping on the scaly, burnt metal.
They are casually knocking on the door of an alien spacecraft.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when they hear no response from the inside, they immediately retreat to the most comfortable, psychologically safe conclusion possible. They decide the occupants must be dead.
They assume the intense heat killed whatever was inside. The threat is over. The oven is turned off.
It is the ultimate rationalization. Unable to open the lid themselves, they stand on the edge of the crater shouting promises of help to a sealed metal tube, and then casually walk back to town to gather some tools.
The imagery is just absurd. Two men, breathless and disheveled, running up the street in the bright, cheerful morning sunlight, just as shopkeepers are casually taking down their shutters.
So what does this all mean? Henderson immediately heads to the railway station to telegraph the news to London. The information pipeline is now wide open.
And the source material makes a crucial observation here. Previous newspaper articles had already primed the public's imagination.
Right, the flashes on Mars.
Yes, stories about the mysterious flashes on Mars had been circulating. So when Henderson's telegraph hits the wire, it doesn't arrive as incomprehensible noise. It slots perfectly into an existing, sensationalized cultural narrative.
And the timeline is staggering. By 8 o'clock in the morning, barely a few hours after Ogilvy was standing alone, in pure terror, a massive societal shift has occurred.
It becomes a spectacle.
Crowds of boys and unemployed men are casually trekking out to the common. And they aren't going out there bracing for an interplanetary war. The narrative has already been neatly packaged for them. They're going to gawk at the dead men from Mars.
The profound existential danger of the cylinder has been entirely stripped away by the collective consciousness of the crowd. It has been commodified into a local exhibit, just a morning curiosity to break up the monotony of the day.
Which brings the entire narrative full circle, back to our original narrator. The man who missed the shooting star entirely because he didn't look out his window.
He finally finds out.
He finally learned about the event at 8:45, completely secondhand from his newspaper boy delivering the morning paper.
Talk about an anticlimax for him.
Right. He is mildly startled, grabs his hat, and strolls out over the Ottershaw Bridge to join the gathered crowd. An unprecedented, reality-breaking cosmic event has been thoroughly digested and reduced to morning gossip.
The mechanism of information dilution is brilliant. The terrifying, claustrophobic reality of that lid slowly turning in the silent dawn has been completely masked by the bright sunshine, the cheerful chatter of the locals, and the illusion of safety in numbers.
We have traced an incredible psychological journey today. From a mist streak of light in a quiet night sky to an atmospheric, desperately lonely discovery in a smoldering crater, right up to the moment an alien arrival is treated like a sideshow attraction.
It really is a fascinating progression.
I want you, the listener, to think about how you process breaking news today. If an anomalous, world-shattering event unfolded in your own neighborhood, would you recognize it for what it was?
Or would your brain force you to rationalize it away?
Would you ignore the hissing sounds, blame the movement on thermal cooling, and simply proceed with your morning routine?
This raises an important question. The psychological frameworks we analyze today show a public rushing toward a crater because they firmly believe the narrative that the threat has passed.
I think it's over.
They want to see the spectacle of the dead men. But we know the physical truth of what Ogilvy witnessed just an hour prior. That cylinder didn't just crash. It was deliberately, mechanically unscrewing itself.
Something was working that lid.
The entities inside were actively surviving, so you are left to ponder. What happens when that sizzling air pressure finally equalizes? What happens when a curious, unsuspecting crowd is standing right on the edge of that pit and the heavy metal lid finally falls away completely?
Oh, man.
What if the real danger wasn't the fiery impact, but what patiently survives it?
That is a deeply unsettling thought to leave you with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unknown. Until next time.